This is the interview that I got to do with Spontaneous J, or Hollow J, from June 23rd, 2023. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks again to Jay, too. He's awesome. This is Growing Up, Gaming, and Life, the interview show. I almost should have called it the Origin Story Show because that's what it's kind of becoming. A little pet project of mine that I get to talk to people I find interesting in the community of the game that I play and get a little more of a backstory. And number 14 tonight. First of all, shout out to JD Crossover last week. He was our guest, and the previous 12 before him. And shout out to anybody who listens. I don't know where this will end up, but wherever you're listening to it, that's where it ended up. Um, and without further ado, your friend, my friend, our friend, uh, Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Tim, how are you? Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for those of you
Yeah,
who are here right on time with us. Thanks to those of you who may be listening to the recording. Happy Friday and happy whatever day you're listening to this space together.
absolutely. Yeah, the Friday of the listeners, the live listeners, I figured just icing on the cake. It's kind of like opening up the door to a phone call, and then putting the phone call. I think the end result is going to be the good stuff, and it might not be. Who knows? Expectations, right? Uh, like
Right.
expectations of summer. I think this might be the first official day of summer. Is that true? Have you heard
I
something about
haven't
that?
I have I haven't looked at the calendar
Or
yet,
maybe that
but
was yesterday.
yeah, not sure. But all I know is that it is a Friday afternoon. I am here in sunny Southern California. So many times around the world, we are blessed with good weather out here. So it does feel like summer around the clock because we get kind of that good temperate climate that we appreciate out here. But if any of you all
Yeah,
want to come out to
I guess
California,
you don't
hit me up.
you don't really notice when summer starts when you have pretty nice weather a lot of the year. See, we up north here, we kind of wait for it and watch the calendar, and the other day it was like 38 degrees in the morning, 2 weeks from
Wow.
July. And I was like, and people live here. I still think that, and people live here, and I'm one of those people. I'm still confused by it, because the sports seasons are different. When I get Southern California, if a kid wants to play baseball, they can play baseball year round, I assume.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about having seasons is you could see the colors change, you could see the foliage change, and you get reminded, and things feel like things are progressing from one season to the other. Over here, sometimes with the good weather, thankfully it's good. It just feels like it's a blur of seasons. It's just a different name, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I guess that's why in GTA when they put the snow in it for Christmas, it looks so weird because wait, snow in LA? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, what do you do? Let's say for your first outdoor activity in a summertime environment. Like you go to the beach a lot. Do you take advantage of your surroundings, or are you like me that just kind of take for granted of your surroundings?
I think usually the outdoor activity I like to do, of course, partially touching grass because there's plenty of grass out here, is just taking a walk or doing a light jog in the area. Um, being in San Diego and being a San Diegan, one of the things that's like, coming down here for school and living here, I don't go to the beach as much as I probably should. I have a lot of buddies and friends who like to surf, but I haven't surfed just because I've had a couple of rough run-ins with underwater rock formations, so I tend to not brave going out in the water too much.
Yeah, that could be a deterrent, and a lot of those, people that are good at surfing, they make surfing look easy, and people that aren't good at surfing consider surfing an extreme sport. Uh, and rock formations is something you don't assume. You assume like sharks and riptide, but uh, rock formations, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yep, definitely.
So Is that something that you get into more? If you're in Southern California, I think you know beach bum style uh, surfer, you know, kind of a stereotype, but never got into surfing, huh?
Yeah, and I think probably because most of the time, living in California, is pricey, whether it's owning or renting. So in most of my time living in California, I actually live quite a bit inland. So to actually drive to the beach is usually like an hour drive out. So that's probably why,
Um,
I haven't hit the beaches too much. But still good weather, whether it's more inland or more coastal. So probably should take more advantage of that than bring my kids out to the beach. What
yeah, and it's a whole process, right? It's a whole process.
So, Tim, if you came out
Like,
to the beach area, I like to throw some questions back at you. What do you think would be the first thing you'd want to do, or the first thing you did when you came out to like a beach coastal city area?
I do like the Karate Kid style. I try to find the pillars and I try to stand on them and I try to crane kick
Oh, there
to
you go.
test my balance. That's and try to get somebody to get a picture of me and tweet it. That's probably the ultimate. That'd be the first thing I'd do.
Yeah. And at sunset,
You know,
right? So you
Twitter.
have the right
And
backdrop going on.
oh, all of it. Because I used to go to Oregon as a kid, for a couple different summers, and going into the ocean. And the first thing that I remember about it was how powerful it was.
Right.
What seemed like just a small wave would just knock you back, and how salty it was.
And you
You know,
could
those are
smell
the
it.
two things. Yeah, and you can smell it, and there was crab shells everywhere, and you're like, what? This is a delicacy where I'm from, and they're just everywhere.
Hmm.
And yeah, and a certain and yeah, so I think just the whole power of the ocean is the first thing I'd go and see. You know, the vastness of it, where you can't see the end. You know, where it's another example of where we as humans get a chance to feel small, to feel tiny. And the ocean is, I don't see the ocean much. I haven't seen it in a long time, but from what I remember of it, that's the first thing I'd do, is go back and recreate that.
And in your busy
Not to get long-winded on you.
work schedule and your content creating schedule, got to make time for seeing the world again, and traveling to places, whether it's the mountain, whether it's the ocean. I think those are those memories that we remember, thinking back to when we were out of our comfort zone and probably out of place. That leaves tends to leave a mark more.
Oh yeah, yeah. The bigger memories, the first time things, you know, the yeah, getting out of your comfort zone, and you say making memories, and this little project I have, I get to test my memory a lot as far as when I write the intros. Um, and Jay, I was trying to think of, I've seems like I've known you for a long time. Um, and that might be true, that might not be true, but it just seems like in we play 2K, and so in that world, it seems like you're an old soul.
I,
And so thank you for being here.
thank you for having me.
And I have a little intro, what I think I know of you, and kind of how I thought of you along this course, and you can kind of chime in, confirm or deny, and and see if this is really you, or see if I've been tricked once again by one of your tweets.
All right. And trickery is not my
Okay,
intention. It's the double take. All right.
the double take in the conversation starting. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Yeah, okay, but that's skipping way forward. First of all, it was top mod. Um, Probably in Oko Dre or Wildmont's chats 2 years ago minimum. I noticed that you were a mod in multiple people's chats. So, and then I come to find out that that means you're trusted and stuff. I didn't know that back then. I know that now. Um, and also a top supporter. You kind of showed me how to support multiple streamers. Okay, you had more clout, of course, way more clout. But you kind of set a path of how you can support people, not financially, but a time investment. Hello, how you doing? To make streaming better for the streamers, and you showed me that, and I didn't know that until I saw you. Um, but there was something a little different about you. You're always level-headed, and so then that's when I just assumed you were a robot. Does that sound pretty accurate so far?
How do you know that I'm not? I could be some graphic concept AI bot, still.
That's well, see the karaoke clip. That's where I don't know if you remember that, but there was a pretty sweet karaoke clip that you tweeted.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the
that which I don't know if a robot can pull that off.
I
It's
appreciate
not that sophisticated. They're not that advanced yet. Uh, but but then I figured no, you're not a robot. Too funny. But a Twitter sweat and a collector and a grinder of game strategies, which makes me. I think I'm a little older than you. I might be a lot older than you. But do you remember the Mario, the original Mario Brothers? There was a free guy strategy you did on a set of stairs with a turtle shell.
Yes, I believe that was either 4-1 or 5-1. And it's at the very end before Mario goes up and jumps on the flag. And then what you do is you jump and you try to step on that green turtle shell at the tip. And if you get it at the right spot, you start getting 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600, and you start getting infinite one ups. And is that the hack you're referring to?
That is the exact hack. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad because man, I am really whiffing on references lately. Well, probably like the last 6 months. I got a really bad reference record. So I'm glad because it seemed like you might have been somebody that would go, "Oh yeah, look at this. Okay, boom, we're set on that."
And that
And
and that was
do you,
back when games didn't have a save, right? You had
yeah,
when you fired
yep.
up a game, whatever game it is, whether it's Super Mario, whether it's Mega Man 2, you had one take, multiple lives, but one take to play it through the end. Um, it's different now, right? With gaming and online and save states and stuff.
Oh yeah. And the first time they started coming out with memory cards and for like a PlayStation was
Yeah.
wild. Um, did you remember what the one problem with what that Mario glitch was?
Well,
There's one certain distinct problem with it.
the one that jumps out, and it might not be the same one, is you have a timer, and your decision was, how close do you want to get close to the time running out before you actually die in the game? But knowing that if you die, you could just replay it and go back to that same spot. I'm not sure if that's the error or the issue you're referring to, but enlighten me if it's something
The,
I didn't realize.
no, it was if you got too many one-ups,
You
and it was an unknown number that the next time you died, it was game over.
Right? Did you figure out what that
So there
limit
was a
was?
line. I don't remember that. I see that's but isn't it funny that back then you had to find out from a buddy about something like that or a cousin that, oh hey, you want to get 100 lives in Mario? What are you talking about? No, dude, let me show you this.
Yeah.
And then you tell a friend, and then they tell a friend, and and then it's in Nintendo Power,
Yep.
and it was a whole different world. So okay, so I think I'm telling the truth on you so far.
No lies there.
Um, and then counselor, which made me realize that hey, this guy's an old head. And again, this is me learning the faceless, nameless, and a lot of times social media and gaming, you know, environment. That and it goes back to being always level-headed. And a lot of people you see get wild when they don't are behind a keyboard when they don't have to back it up. And and from day one you weren't wilding. So good on you on that. And I'll just say, yeah, you can agree with that one. But you're a counterfeiter, and yeah, I said it, a counterfeiter,
Okay, tell
which
me
some of the
more. Tell me
greatest
more.
artists,
Tell me more there.
some of the greatest artists are something that you just or me just click like because yeah, it makes sense. And then, like you said, the double take where you're like, no, no, this isn't true or correct or right. This is far fetched, but it's awesome. That kind of counterfeiter where I just take a $20 bill and cash it and say, "Yep, good job." But where the with true artists, when you do the double take and go, you know what? That's Queen Elizabeth. That's not George Washington, or whatever.
Yeah, it was. What was that weird meme that was there a couple years ago where it's like, was it a gold and white dress or was it a blue and silver dress or something like that? And then
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
entire social media and internet could never agree on what people saw. And I think the interesting thing about that, you know, kind of viral meme or viral picture is people's perspectives are different, right? So some people will see something and they will believe it right away, and maybe their guards down, or maybe they trust the source. And other folks who look at life and things with a critical eye will want to validate that it's true before they accept it. So I think that's the interesting thing about people and us is our perspectives are different in that way, right?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, and something, but like you bring up a good point, but it's a almost you can get violent when you say, "Hey, why can't you see that this is silver and white or gold and white? Why can't you see that? It's obviously that." And
That's
it,
that argument is like saying who's the GOAT, LeBron, Kobe, or Jordan. That no one's ever gonna win that argument,
yeah,
right?
yep. You can yell into the ether. It's one of those things that you could, hey, if you want to fill time, let's talk. Let's debate who the goat is. Yeah. It's endless conversation can be had with that, with good points on all sides. But the all signs point to Tim Duncan. You're a conversation starter, uh, like the Carson Daly connections. Did you ever watch MTV when Carson Daly was big? There was a countdown show.
Oh man, this is where I'm dating myself because I watched more MTV in probably the 80s and 90s before Carson Daly. So by the time Carson Daly started, I don't think I watched it as much. I watched it when, Madonna's, world
Yeah.
premiere video came out, you know, or Janet Jackson's world premiere came out. That's what I really remember about MTV. It's just watching uh, those 80s and 90s rock bands that had the hairsprayed hair, you know, that's what I remember about MTV. I don't actually remember the times of watching Carson Daly and all of those more live shows.
Yeah, and see that was different because back then, what the time you're referring to, we didn't have MTV, and one thing that really sticks out for me is they had a free weekend on our cable company at some point, and somewhere, so in some garage somewhere, there's a whole VHS tape of MTV videos
Hmm.
that I recorded. I missed the beginning of them because I didn't know which one was coming next. And as soon as it was a good one, like Mama Said "Knock You Out" by LL Cool J,
Yeah,
that was on there.
iconic video.
And yeah, oh yeah, oh and awesome. And back when videos were like, oh, did you hear so and so's coming out with a new video next week? And you're like, oh what? And it was like a movie, like Guns N' Roses,
Yeah, when they
you
came
know.
back in the Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, those albums, I mean, it's equivalent to breaking the internet when there was no internet. It shattered what everyone thought, could never happen and them getting back together. But we had a lot of good
Yeah,
music milestones, throughout those years that, you know, is different than kind of how music is consumed and delivered out now, with shorts and videos and things like that.
yeah, and yeah, on demand and Spotify and create your own radio station. Yeah, because I figure I put music in my notes for you because just in interacting with you, you do have a musical acumen. As far as I'll say good taste, because me and you share a lot of good taste in music, but you're well versed in different genres. Because you and me could have a great in-depth conversation about how we think Tupac changed the game, and then I hop in your stream and it's classical jazz.
Mhm.
Mm.
And the funny thing about
Which,
music during that era is I think what my mom and didn't want me to listen to were two genres of either heavy metal or gangster rap, right? And of course, for whatever reason, the influences and Friends and MTV, whatever you want to call it, around those years, was and kind of what the memory of those years were like in terms of those two eras.
yeah, and and see, and yeah, the parental advisory explicit lyrics sticker that got put on music. and the Mad Mothers Association or whatever it was, using a steamroller to roll over a bunch of like Easy E albums. You know, that's something that the younger generation didn't get to witness. And of course, you know, other generations had it different. Every generation has their own struggle. And I'm not saying that was a struggle in any way on our part. It was just something that, if you, I guess it's a word for the music industry. If they want somebody not to listen to something, don't publicly say you can't listen to this because everybody will want to listen to it.
Yeah, it's the rebellion mentality, right? You want to do what you're not supposed to do, and
Yeah,
to fight the power, whatever you want to call it, you know?
the counterculture. Like, yeah, the first time my buddy Charlie gave me the Adam Sandler first comedy album. Talk about something you weren't supposed to listen to.
Yeah. Do you remember the Jerky Boys?
Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. The
So,
prank calls.
yeah.
Uh,
So the Jerky Boys was these couple of, I don't know if they were indie albums or something, but they would record themselves, and I couldn't tell if it was real or if it was scripted, but they would crank call different, businesses and whatnot, and run out these different scripts using different voices and just crank call people. And that was taboo amongst, all parents when those albums came out. They did not want any of their kids listening to that. Um, but somehow we found a tape copy, cassette tape copy.
oh yeah, and that gets passed around the school. You know, hey, who's got the Jerky Boys cassette? Who's got that one? Oh, whose weekend is it? And then, because of course, back when we were growing up, we were able to call somebody and nobody knew where the call was coming from. You know,
And no caller ID, right?
yeah, no caller ID, no caller ID. Back before caller ID, back before we found out people had caller ID. That was a rough round of prank calls. When people call you by your name. Um, I was probably one of the last people in the neighborhood to get caller ID.
So I'm wondering,
So were
Tip,
you
did you
okay?
ever crank call someone or want to model and copy that behavior after you heard the Jerky Boys? I'll admit I did. I called like a Domino's Pizza just to try to do it, and of course, epically failed. Before
Oh,
epically failed was a term, because I didn't know what to say, right? And yeah, it just did not work out. I'm curious if you've tried to.
oh yeah, prank calls. But it was those, yeah. But it was always in front of, like, it was me and a buddy, and we were probably bad influences on each other. Like my buddy Sean, we were bad influences on each other. But but we'd have to own it pretty much. We'd have to almost make the other person on the other end hang up because we just could try to, ride the joke into the ground. And
Right.
that's what would make it funny. And yeah, because we didn't have the skill or the talent to think on your feet like those guys do, but you thought you did until you're actually on a live call. Yeah, yeah. Oh, prank calls. Wow. Yeah. What a life we led back then. The innocent times, the simpler times. But
we
then
had to
yeah,
be
the first.
we had to be creative with entertainment. It's like finding out what we could do to entertain ourselves and not have too many consequences or have any
Just get on your
police or
bike.
anyone rolling up.
Exactly. Get on your bike and go. Okay, I'm gonna go start looking for friends. That's it. All right, I'll be home by dinner. You know, and I think we got a little sidetracked on that. But and then it comes all the way kind of to the end of, or maybe not the end, but the current state. Because you do all this stuff, but what I've seen, you interacting with people, being a supporter, um, and then you get acknowledged by a video game company, but the game you play. Yet you continue to support the community. Why?
So validation is always appreciated. Validation, I think, is always desired. Tim, you know this. We and the folks listening right now, and other who may be listening to this later, we all want validation from someone, right? Whether it be our parents, whether it be to our significant others as we get older, siblings, our mentors, our peers, and I think when we play a video game, as we're talking about Mario Brothers, when that Nintendo Power first issue came out, I wanted to submit a picture of me beating Contra so I could get validated by Nintendo Power, you know? So
Mhm.
there's an element of not just playing a game for satisfaction, but somehow getting some additional validation and recognition somewhere. I think we all would feel happy with that, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The quest for constant validation is what I'm on.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
you should be. We all should be, right? Um,
You put in the work, but because I'm there, there was an old meme. I don't remember who it was, but somebody probably really famous that says their end goal is to blow up and act like they don't know nobody. Right?
mhm.
Isn't that the goal? Get your in-game playable Hollow J character in a video game.
Yeah, and I think to the second part of your question though is why keep supporting? Um, I think that's an interesting one because in my younger years, I probably wouldn't have seen the periphery and the people around us in the community as much as I do now. Um, I think, as you say, counseling, coaching, teaching, whether it's as a father, whether it's as a peer, whether it's as a professor, then it becomes, well, what's my legacy and what information can I share with people that they might find valuable, right? And I think one may feel that those two are mutually exclusive, right? How could I validate myself, but at the same time project and recognize and help others? But I think in fact it's completely intertwined, where the recognition comes from the effort, the unconditional effort to try to support and help others, but then not expecting validation back, which is the hardest thing to do, right? Um, but I think those are more intertwined than we think. And the younger Jay probably would not have seen that, but I think my true north or my reminder to myself is that I should be focusing on the latter, which is supporting others and recognizing others, um, and that's it.
Yeah, because with that support, you've built a whole community in a community, which is still mind-boggling. You know, it's to me that the support that you've received because of the support you've given, uh, and yeah, and nailing it, and that brings us here now. So it's spontaneous J, it's hollow J, it's logo J, it's J Sunborn, possibly with your skill set, but
No martial arts though. No martial arts.
no martial arts. Ah,
No.
okay, okay, just pure weapons, right? When you
Yeah.
attack, yeah, no hands, nah. Let's get some distance. But
Or
but
the
there's
strategist behind the scene. That
uh,
lays out the plan, and then I'll let the generals and captains decide
yeah,
how to best execute them. Right.
yeah, let me know how it goes. This is what you're working with. This is all your parts and pieces. I think we should do this. Let me know how it goes. I like that. I like that. More of a overseer. Uh, but that's kind of where we're at now, and there's a whole history. So Southern California. I did not grow up in Southern California. Is that where you're based out of, or have you been on the scene? Because being in a rural area and growing up in an urban area is a whole different upbringing, just as far as how the importance you feel.
Right.
And I
So
say that because I grew up in Idaho where nobody ever visits. There was never any presidential candidates. There was never anything like that, which is something that makes a kid go, yeah, not important out here. But in California, I can see that could be different if that's where you did grow up.
yeah, so I did grow up in Southern California. Most of my family is in Asia. We are the few couple of folks who transplanted to the United States. I was born here, grew up in Southern California, but in my youth, I really feel like I was a nomad because I have a single mom, love her to death. She taught me a lot of how to conduct myself and challenges me even to this day as her son, as a father. But I moved a lot. Every year, it was like I had a new school. Never felt like I really belonged anywhere, and it was really hard to make friends and keep friends. So really, in my younger days, I kept mostly to myself, and I think that connects a little bit with my curiosity with art, with music, because those are things I could do independently and explore those areas of who I am to become. Uh, so Southern California is a vast place, right? When you come out here, you say you're from LA, but if you're local, it's never downtown LA, unless you're ghetto like my amazing spouse. She's from downtown LA. That's why I don't mess with her. Um, but but usually it's no one ever lives in LA. So the question then is where in LA, right? LA County, right? So it could span anywhere from you know Hollywood to Upland to Pomona to Orange County. There's just so many places out here, but really, Jay as a young kid was really just a kid who moved around a lot and didn't have many people to hang out with, and art and music kind of were my outlets.
Yeah, and art and music, something that can be solo. That's something that, along with video games, because if you're also in the double digit elementary school club, you find a lot of comfort in video games.
Yep, I think Atari was actually my first system. Um,
Yes.
before the Nintendo, and I didn't play Pong. It wasn't that far back. But I remember there was a tank game on Atari that I loved where you can just have two tanks. And I think when I have my cousins or friends over, we'd have one little Atari controller with just a joystick and one button. And then I would be playing against my friend. Or sometimes if I'm alone, I'm playing against a bot, just like, the semi pro Hornets. I want to beat up on a tank sitting there. But you felt good about playing a game, you know, with an opponent, sometimes without an opponent.
Yeah, or you can dominate them and say, "See, look, see, I'm winning." All right, like Pitfall. Man, Pitfall was hard, but when you jumped the hole and you caught the rope and you jumped the snake, you felt like a champ.
And you wanted to
And that,
do it again, right?
yeah, you wanted to do it again. You want to do it better. And yeah, it didn't matter if it was a bot and you know how the snake moves. You know how the rope swings and it swings the same way every time. That didn't matter. You're still winning, and that helps a kid with confidence. Little things
Right.
like
It's
that.
like you're practicing some skill where there may be no validation, but hey, I'm beating this level or I'm beating this game. So
Yeah.
there's that accomplishment, right?
Hmm. Exactly, exactly. And so we're at this time, did you get involved in sports at all? Like just dabble at recess or anything like that, or even more organized?
Um, I would say it was about fourth grade was when I picked up a basketball because I lived 4 homes from my elementary school. So I would be done with school, walk home, go home, pick up my basketball, walk back to the court, and that's when I started to play casually, not organized.
Mhm.
I did have an opportunity, I think, in seventh grade, because I went to a private school that year, and I remember the basketball coach was saying, "Hey, you should really try to be part of the team," and it was my dream to try. Um, but I think we then moved, and I didn't have the opportunity to join that anymore. But when I did go to high school, high school is a great place for kids growing up to try all different types of sports. Whether you're the fastest, strongest, it doesn't matter. A lot of these sports give opportunity to learn team skills. So I joined tennis, I joined cross country, and really found a place there where it was a team. And I think that's where I started to come out of my shell and that cliche, where I like to cheer on other people on my cross country team. I didn't have to be the fastest, but I'm going to cheer the loudest, right? And one year in my senior year, they did, award me, team voted most inspirational teammate. So,
There you go. That's
right,
huge. Uh,
yeah, it
any
wasn't
honor voted
fastest
on by
runner.
peers.
It wasn't like fastest runner ever,
Yeah, or strongest guy. Yeah, or
Yeah.
can throw a shot, put a mile. No, it was most supportive, best teammate. Which maybe that's better than being the fastest runner.
And again, that's validation from peers, right? Validation from the coaches, validation from your peers. And, you know, did we all want to win some award? Yes, we do, but we don't expect it. But when we do get it, we just say thank you, as my mom would say to me, and move on, you know? But she was always told me, you can't be humble, but not say thank you because you still have to be polite. So, you know, when we get compliments, I try to display that humility, but at the same time, you have to display that gratitude, um, or else it won't come back again, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Or yeah, you lose the appreciation for it. The and that's something I'm still working on. I think we all are, the ability to receive a compliment in the way it's intended, um, and also be humble at the same time. There's that line of humility and cockiness, you know, that uh, you got to toe, especially in social media. You have to be able to puff your chest out to get noticed, but as well as shut your mouth when people are sick of listening to you.
It's hard. It's hard to know when to act which ways. And I do think all of us have decided to send a tweet or to decided to delete a tweet in different instances, right? So it's kind of 50-50 too. Sometimes you choose one way versus the other. Sometimes it's the right choice. Sometimes you make the wrong choice, but you still just use that experience in your next decision point to decide whether to, you know, tweet out a point or not. I usually go with the sense of if someone else has already said something that I agree with or I needed to say, then I don't need to say it. So if there's something that hasn't been said yet or should be said, or someone who hasn't expressed a voice to say what they needed to say, and this is true in social media or whatever in the workplace, I want to advocate for that unspoken opinion, voice, person, people, community, you know?
Which is great advice from the wise sage Jay. But has the younger Jay coming up, growing up in social media where we were all learning what everything was? Did you ever have any times where you're like, oh, this is bad. This is I shouldn't have done this.
Social media. I'm so risk averse. I can't think of an example
Because it might
of a
even be, you
moment.
know, even DMing a girl in school. Not DMing, I don't know. But what would we have? MySpace?
We had
Jeez, because
notes.
I
We
was
had,
out of school. I was out of
if
school
it
by the
was
time
notes
there's
to a
social
girl,
media.
it was some sort of weird origami where we'd take half a sheet of 8.5 by 11 lined paper, and then somehow we would fold it into this weird envelope contraption, where then we would write a message to like the girl we had a crush on or whatever, and then either have the guts to directly hand it to her or go through some weird like 6 degrees of separation that hope it gets to her where the message was untarnished, you know, and people didn't add words that they shouldn't have added, you know. Um,
Oh yeah. That's the original social media right there. Yeah. The folded paper and certain notes and the message you want to get across but you don't want to say, you know. Talk about a life of tap dancing around the topic. Those where you pick a number and you open the thing a couple different times and you pick something else.
Yeah,
Sheesh.
I think I don't know where, but generally, I think my personality is just to listen before I speak.
Mm.
So, so usually, I like to have a strategic pause before I say something because I don't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. Um, and I think that just comes from me starting a childhood where I, you know, didn't have a comfort level with the space. So I tend to like to be that little animal that pops their head out and looks around first before they try to run across the street or something like that. So I think generally, thankfully, I haven't had too many instances where, you know, I've had my foot put in my mouth and I've had to retract something. But I'm sure we've all made mistakes. I just thankfully can't remember a glaring example.
Blocked them out or buried them, which is
Yeah,
good.
it might have
That's
it
good. The
might have been
brain
one of
works
those
like that.
like block it off in memory and just forget about it by choice, right?
Yeah, yeah. Here in 20 years, you'll see something at the store and it'll remind you of something. You'll be like, wait a second, I tweeted something about salad dressing. Oh no, this was terrible. Yeah, this is. But if we're growing up, because I think MySpace was the first one where I started to try to be more vocal to
Mhm.
let people know my opinions on things. Probably Facebook as well. Do you remember when when you started, putting more than an origami note message out there, something a little more like. Uh, do you remember your
Yeah,
first social media that you got into?
so I think there's two parallel stories, and we could decide, kind of where we want to go. In terms of an external social media platform, to me, my first was Friendster. So before MySpace, there was Friendster, and similar to what MySpace came and gone, and what Facebook has become, you'd build this profile on Friendster. You might or might not put a picture of yourself. I think they may have had like some stick figures or some emotes or faces back then that you could pick. And back then, there wasn't a set social media platform, and I don't think Twitter was around back then. But it was really where your friends hung out in terms of social media, right? And before that, there was ICQ and AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, that those were, you didn't have a profile, but you would add your friends who also had these accounts, and it was almost like you're DMing each other, right? So there's no content. Imagine Twitter without the content and only the DMs, and that's what ICQ and AIM was. And back in college, everyone would just have those accounts. So even though your friend was in another dorm on another floor or in the East Coast or somewhere else, if they had an ICQ or an AIM, you could chat with them anytime you want.
Yeah, sounds like a real winner of an app, right? Just a whole bunch of messages. But hey, we had to start somewhere, and the
Yeah.
same thing with like online gaming. Uh, do you remember where the online aspect of your video games came in? Was it kind of
So
parallel with the social media and everything? Because it seems like everything kind of started steamrolling all at once with going online.
yeah, for me, the first online or let's say call it multiplayer gaming experiences for me was actually in high school. Um, my buddies and I learned how to build PCs, and we would go to the Pomona Fair where they would have rows and rows of these computer vendors sell components, right? And we learned how to buy the CPU, buy the RAM, buy the graphics card, buy the speakers, buy the case, buy the power source, and we would assemble these things. And we wouldn't play online through the internet with other people. We would connect all of our computers together and we'd have LAN parties, right? And some of the games that we played were StarCraft. That was huge back in the 90s. And StarCraft is made by Blizzard. Some of you, if you want to Google it, um, but you build like a town with one of these three races, and then you try to destroy the other non-allied opponents. So it wasn't online in the sense where we went online to play with a stranger or go through the internet. It was a local network, and that quickly progressed into first-person shooters. So games like Quake and Counter Strike were great ones where it's kind of like Fortnite way back when, right? So Counter Strike, you get on a team and are trying to attack and kill the other team. And what I liked about LAN parties is we didn't have earphones and speakers. We just talked out loud in the same room, right? So three of my friends would huddle in one room playing as one Counter Strike team, and then the other three would be the other end of the house where we couldn't hear each other. But inevitably, one of my buddies would physically walk and look at our screens and say they're in the bunker, and we're like, get out of here! You're not
Oh,
supposed to do that.
yeah,
But
the
but
betrayal
that was so
screen
fun
feed.
because we were able truly to strategize, and I would say that's probably the first online gaming experiences I've have is really those LAN parties in my buddy's house during the summer.
Wow. Oh yeah, and those are the times right there that you look up and the sun's coming up, and you're like, oh geez, did we stay up all night? Holy cow.
We did. Those were all nighters.
Constant, yeah. You're planning it all out. Get all your stuff done so you can clear your calendar. And the best part about gaming with your buddies in the middle of the night is nobody's gonna call you. Nobody's gonna bug you, because everybody's
Yep.
asleep except you and your buddies.
And I think just like, Super Mario and getting the one up or figuring out the hack and getting that achievement and getting better, you wanted to play those multiplayer games again and again, where just like if you play 3-on-3, you know, pick up basketball with your buddies, you want to change the teams up, and you know who the good players are, and the average players are, and who needs to be carried. You know, and I'm not going to self-identify, but you wanted to have that co-op experience, and that's what I really like about the co-op um, feature being added this year. Because when I ran a ton of co-op in season two, running with a lot of great people in the PlayStation community, it was kind of that same vibe back again.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so they so you're gaming, you're building computers with your buddies to game. Um and then and so moving forward, this maybe a college or a high school setting, but then there's a point where we have to go solo. Uh are you still kind of walk me through the process of that, because there's a little story arc here where you got to, because back in our day we got instruction books. All right. And then, so there's a certain part along your path is where you discover like streaming and the online instruction books.
Right. So
You-
a little bit of the other side of online and social media is I remember when the internet first came out, there were these Usenet groups, and you would go there and chat on various topics, sports, food, whatever the hobbies are. And there were some Lakers Usenet groups that I remember going to and kind of connecting with other people, making takes, making points. So it was then creating content a little bit for other people who have similar interests. So this is even before the social media content creating site. And I told Ramsey I would spend a little bit of time in this area. Um, so I had a
And it's
Lakers
like a
fan.
Lakers
I
group
had a
chat type
Lakers
thing.
fan. Yeah, so I had a Lakers website because they were my team, growing up in LA. Of course, we had some rough years after Magic was diagnosed with HIV, and the Lakers went through some coaching and roster challenges. So I started a Lakers fan website when I was in high school, um, and eventually had a chance to grow and connect with a professional network that was competing with ESPN. The group is called Rivals.com. So if you go to Rivals.com today, they're a recruiting website. But when I was in college, um, Rivals found me as one of the larger Lakers early internet websites that was existing. And I think that's when the content creating first started. I would find every single Laker picture I could find, I would post it on there. I would watch the games and write a little recap. And because the content that I made back then, there weren't many people making websites as they are today. I was able to connect with that Rivals group. So during a number of years when I was in college, I had press passes to be able to cover the games. And I think that journey really made me objective and to not take sides, but to listen to, both sides of a competition and a team sports. Um, but I think that was when I first figured out how to build a community, because part of the Lakers website that I had, there was a message board on there. So the message board had people who would create an account, they would come and share their opinions. We had trolls in the late 90s. We'd have trolls come on there trying to attack the community, all this type of stuff. So when I then fast forward to today, started looking for content on Twitter and starting to post. And then, of course, the trolls sometimes come out along with the good parts of the community. It was nothing new to me because I've seen this like 20 years ago. Um, and
This
this
is
is
awesome.
where,
I am fast.
huh?
Oh, this is awesome, Jay. This is awesome. I had no idea about this. So yeah, go on. Sorry to interrupt. This is great. I wish I had my popcorn ready. This is great.
Yeah, no worries. Um, so I think this is where some of the things I learned, way back when, is you have to stay true to the content, and the folks you engage with will find you, right? And I think if the effort is put into the content and not put into the common thing we want to do, like when we go into Walmart and Oko's chat, is to be like, Oko, look at me, shout me out. I'm here, waving, hello, here's my wave emote, right? But it's saying, well, I connect with their content because they're talking about the market, they're talking about how to make MT, and they're sharing it. to me, that's what I resonated with. So as fast forward, that uh, came to collecting cards virtually, and Hollows being a unique feature that was added to 2K. Um, it was something fun to do, but this is where I'll give last week's guest, JD Josh, credit because he welcomed me into his Facebook streams when he streamed at Facebook at the time, and we said let's collect Hollows together. You know, and you know initially I wasn't trying to collect every hollow set. It was JD saying that hey, he's gonna try to collect the 2000s um, hollow set in 2K22, and we said, well, I wanted to collect it with him, so we and him and a number of other people in his community started doing so. And again, it was a way to connect with like interested peers in the community. And then I think is when Timid became an obsession. And
It happens
about,
quick, doesn't it?
oh gosh, March 2022 was my first Hollow content related tweet. So that's what, a year and 3 months now. But then it was a, can I repeat this? Can I keep jumping on this turtle and continue to get to the one ups, but then not go overboard and
Run
break
out
the
of
game?
time. Run
Yeah,
out
or get too many lives. So I
of
think
break
it's
the
just
game.
whether it's jumping on the turtle in Mario or whether it's collecting hollows. And for those of you listening now or listening in the future, it's like, what is that thing that makes you want to do it again? Right? And when games have elements of that achievement and satisfaction and glory, that's what drives us to want to play it despite the negatives or challenges or gameplay, cough, cough. That's why we still do it because we know that there are elements of it that we still want to enjoy. So I think that's how things kind of blend and some themes are consistent. Now that I'm chit chatting with you and thinking about, younger Jay, not much has changed about me, really.
So would that be that you're still running a Lakers website currently?
No, I
Mm.
actually handed off that website to the staff and the team who was helping mod it. There was one gentleman who was retired, he had the funds. Um, and then he was saying, hey, I want to keep the site going, Jay. And I said, well, that's great. Side story is I didn't want to deal, I had no idea how to monetize it. you know I was getting ad revenue from Google and different ads that support sports related content. So we worked out something with me and my buddy. um, Sadly he passed away in a car accident 2 years after we kind of changed hands there. Um, but the site is there today, lakersground.net. The graphic art in the header and the logo is still what I made back in the 2000s. They haven't changed it, I don't know why. um, but I think the world has moved past the message boards as the communication method, and places like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram are really the new place where information can travel faster. But I would say there's also a lot of misinformation out there. So we all should look at everything with a critical eye, and believe what we think is to be true.
That's right. Always do a double take. Just because something looks like it's from a reliable source doesn't mean it's everything that it appears to be, right?
Definitely.
Mhm. Yeah, that. But so then there's a point along this journey. Then, so you're done with the Lakers website. You're still gaming pretty regularly, or was there any like a time that you had to kind of hang them up for a little while, or have you been kind of keeping up as a like a lifelong hobby?
Oh, I think when I'm retired and not worried about anything financially to support my wife and I and my kids anymore, I think I'm still going to be gaming when I'm old, you know? And if I can't see too well, kind of now I can joke about my eye thing because I recently had an eye tear that was diagnosed and that was stabilized. So I don't have any concern now. Is, you know, vision and sight is such a blessing that we probably all don't think about. But easily to try to imagine life without it, so many things in life all of a sudden are different. But I think I would still be gaming till, gosh, my end of days. But but this is
Well,
where
last
like
request, bring me
yeah.
a copy of 2K18. And they'll
Oh
say,
gosh,
what?
that's the one that I
They'll
heard when I
say,
was
what?
growing up. But I would say I more so played NBA Live on PC as the sports game because my roommates and I would um, get NBA Live on the PC. We'd connect a couple of USB little controllers up to it, and back then my buddy, my roommate, he was I think a president of a club, so he always had club meetings, and he would have this projector. And what we loved to do is after he had his meetings that night, he would bring the projector home, and then we would plug that VGA cable into the projector with NBA Live, and then we would make these basically like Victor Wembanyama like player models of these like 7 foot demigods in NBA Live with 99 everything stats and just destroy the computer on like whatever easy
Oh.
setting. And that was just the fun we had to de-stress um, and play
On the
that game. And
projector. Talk about
yep,
resourceful, huh? Try to tell. Well, let's take our game to the next level. Projector.
hey, it's 7 foot against the back wall in my apartment, you know?
Yeah, the dude's as tall as we are. Ah, yeah, that's awesome. That's being resourceful in gaming to keep yourself entertained. Because yeah, it could have been just fine to play on a monitor or a TV, but no, let's break out. Let's use the whole wall. All right, and that's kind of like what we keep doing.
Right.
It's sure we could tweet this a little bit, but then there's a point that you became a streamer.
Yeah, I have to give DFS props for nudging me and DMing me. And I know he does this with everyone, and I appreciate he does this with everyone. And for those of you who he or someone else have nudged, Fit's been a big inspiration and brother to say, hey, just keep doing what you're doing, do your thing, be yourself, be true to yourself. That's what's most important. But streaming is something I enjoy because usually I've learned to enjoy being in chat and getting to know other people in chat, like in Oko's chat or JD Crossover's chat, and meeting other people without necessarily having to engage with only the streamer. And but to really stream is different because now, as you know, and we've all continued to train ourselves, is we have to provide content and talk about something because or else why would people be here to watch us, right? So it's an added element of challenge to that, and I don't stream as much as I would like, and that's by choice, just because with a family and full-time job, I pick and choose my moments. But just as you do, Tim, with your streams, you pick a purpose, right? Like, what am I going to do on today's stream? Okay, you're going to talk about your shoe method. I'm going to talk about how to dunk with Joe Ingles. So it becomes very specific because then I think it brings a little uniqueness to then when we choose to stream and a purpose to that stream, at least for part of it. Then you can kind of waffle and do whatever you want, you know?
Well, yeah,
Um,
hop in unlimited. Get some sweat going, right? Start raging.
oh dear.
That's
I think after the first quals, when I still felt like I had a handle on shooting and the gameplay, um, I lost the will to try to battle and sweat. I think that first quals, and I went 3-1, which I was pretty happy with. I still
I
have the
was there. I was there. You're a comp. You're a
yeah,
sweat. I tell
yeah.
you, you're good at this game. It's crazy. You're good at it.
I feel more confident about my gameplay in 2K22,
It's-
definitely than 2K23. It's just the green window, greener mist. Just even with better internet connection right now, I'll call it like it is. I don't feel like I got it, and I'm okay with that.
Hey, hey, and that's it. You accept your role. You push when you need to. When quals come up, hey, you run it out there. That's good, but you don't have to be, you know, turn it on, headband on. Okay, we're gonna sweat for 4 hours every stream.
Yeah, but if I could think back to a point this year when I was locked in terms of I wanted to focus and it was that first call because I woke up that morning not intending to play or stream, but then when I woke up, I asked my kids if they wanted to eat breakfast. They're like, "No, I'm not hungry," and I'm like, "Well, what else am I gonna do? I'm just gonna bring my squad and see what happens." And I did. I was pretty locked that day, and I did have fun with it. But once trying for quals was, I think, good enough.
Is that the only like comp versatile gaming situation you've been in, or are you a comp sweat in other games?
Um,
You can- Fall
I
Guys,
think
Mario Kart, any of it?
I like to play games more casually. I don't feel like I want to prove that I want to outbeat someone. What I think I like to be competitive with, and this is a great way to segue, is I like to crack a game's economy. So
Mm.
before there was, 2K and buying hollows and, the auction house, I played World of Warcraft. And in that online game, there is an auction house. And in there, there's the different armors that you can get. There's different classes, and there's swords, helmets, necklaces, earrings. And when I started to play that, I was thinking, wow, I want to make as much coin in the game as I can, but I need to follow and know what the prices are for different things. And the little niche of what I found was the necklaces and rare and legendary earrings that were in so little supply, but people would throw those items basically as snipes back in the early 2000s, and I would sit on that filter in World of Warcraft and snipe necklaces and earrings, and I would, just like badges. Hey, but just like when Hex says, oh, this badge is up, I controlled that entire necklace and earring market, and
I
ended up
love
with
it.
so much gold and loot. But when people ask me, "Oh, did you go on this raid? How did you get this piece?" I'm like, "No, I didn't raid anything. I didn't gameplay anything. I bought it
That's
from the auction house
crazy.
with all this gold I had." You know.
I was at the
So
store the whole time while you guys were raiding. I was over at the
yeah, you
store.
guys are raiding. I'm just sitting here doing my little dances with my horse mount. You know, getting like 400 or 500 gold, and to me that I think was the satisfaction. So connecting that now with the 2K aspect, I whenever I play any game and there's an economy, my biggest comp challenge is how can I do this no money spent, right? Because
Yep.
I want to prove that, gosh, we could spend many hours, but I want to prove that there's a way to accumulate assets and wealth in a game organically. And it's hard because these games are built for us to desire the best card, the best armor, and to have FOMO when we don't have it, right? But to figure out how to do it, no money spent. I also play this mobile game on my phone, Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle. Shout out to that. They have all these legendary cards, and there's ways to buy these dragon stones to buy or rip packs, if you will, to try to pull like an LR Goku, right? But again, my whole thing is how do I stack my dragon stones and spam certain challenges or certain events so I can have hundreds and hundreds of these dragon stones. So when there's a promo and you can buy 3 sets and get one extra pull for free, then I would unload all the stones that I have, you know? So I think I that's the comp side that I like. It's not competing against a opponent. It's cracking the architecture and the economy of a game because that to me is the challenge.
And see, and that's interesting because it's not competing against an opponent; it's competing against every opponent. Like on the auction house, you're competing against everybody that's on that auction house, and nobody has the clout of you with your necklaces and earrings. That that we've seen. That's awesome. And I
My
see
bag was
grinder.
full of them. My bag would be so full. It's like the auction outcomes, and you'd have like 200 auction outcomes you can't redeem. You know?
Yeah, grinder of game strats, and that's comp. That's comp, and and not only just being comp, but showing people the way. Like the meme. This is the way that
Yep.
you you're you're an easy person to gravitate toward because you back up what you say and you're consistent about what you say.
Thank
And
you. I appreciate that.
and then that's my biggest shout I can give you. Because and I sent out a tweet half hour before the space started. Uh, I felt like I might have underprepared for this space tonight because I was like, you know what? I'm thinking at work. I get to talk to my buddy on the phone, and people are going to listen.
Yeah, this is great.
Uh, And so if I'm going to stress about this, I need to get out of the content game because I'm in a fortunate position uh, to be here. A lot of people be like to be here right now where I am chatting with you, Jay. And that's on you uh, for being who you are. But
And
but
I'm definitely honored because to see the number of great headlining S tier guests that you've had, I think it should be a validation and testament to your effort and the time you put into all this, Tim. I'm not trying to lift you up. I'm just trying to spit truths about truths. You know, though your previous guests, you know, if anyone else might have reached out to them without the reputation and the preparation and what you stand for, they wouldn't say yes, right? Um, so so definitely take that validation and hang that hat. And I
it's been
feel like
crazy. It's been crazy.
I don't compare with that company,
You
but I
do,
still
but you
appreciate
do.
being here with you.
Well, I'll nix that. I'll edit the last part out. No, I won't. I don't know how to edit anything, but I'll reject the last part. You are S tier. You are in the company. The one that's the odd man out is me in this whole scenario, and so
Oh, get the humility out of here. Edit that
saying
part
that,
out, Tim. Come on.
that having said that, and I also just discovered that a true AFK game takes over an hour because I started a game before the interview and it just barely got done. So, man, those things are a grind. Imagine somebody that had to deal with this for unlimited player lock. Talk about frustrating.
Did you turn off auto timeouts for your team and coach? That's my question because that could save a couple minutes there.
On now I have, but maybe
Okay.
back in the previous days when another player had to put up with it, and it might be a strategy to get
Right.
somebody to quit. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I left them on. Maybe I snuck in and called it some timeouts myself.
Oh
I don't know.
man.
Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But one thing I did do, I enjoyed talking to you, Jay, big time. But that
Same
being
right back
said, I
at
have
you.
a favor to ask of you.
You want me to close? I'm happy and ready.
I do, and you've closed Tuesday Spaces before, so I appreciate that. And again, you're a true pro, S tier, 100% in everything you do. If you're doing something, count me as a follower. And have a fantastic weekend. And thanks again, Jay.
Well, first off, I just want to thank Tim for whatever amount of time he took in preparing this space, this interview series, previous interview series. I would say to anyone listening for the first time, go listen to the prior interviews. Um, those are great guests sharing great stories. I'm honored to have the opportunity to share with you all and talk with you all on this wonderful Friday evening. And I'll leave you, I guess, with this parting thought, you know, is, and I've said this in spaces before where, find a passion, find a true north, find something that motivates you. I think the word we didn't probably bring up as much, Tim, today that I think should have been mentioned as much is motivate or motivation. Find what motivates you. The validation will follow. So, on that note, I love y'all. Stay shiny, stay hollow, and lift each other up. We all rise. And when we do, we'll be validated. So, peace out. Thank you.